Summary of Unwind by Neal Shusterman. The novel is set in an alternate version of the United States, and the Bill of Life is a set of constitutional changes that say pregnant women can't get abortions, but they can unwind their child when the child turns 13. Even after unwinding, that child will still live in a split state as a blood and tissue giver. Connor, 16, just found out that he's going to be unwound. He feels hurt that his girlfriend, Ariana, won't run away with him to get away from his bad luck, but he does it anyway. Risa, a 15-year-old state child who wants to be a concert pianist, finds out that she will also be unwound at the same time. Lev, a 13-year-old tithe, someone raised knowing they will be unwound as a religious gift, goes to his tithing party. Marcus, his biggest brother, stands up to their parents and says he doesn't want to tithe. The next day, all three people meet. Connor is being chased by police across a highway, and Connor pulls Lev out of his car, which crashes Risa's bus. For Lev's youth, Preacher Dan was his preacher. He tells Lev to run, and the three of them get away into the woods. A juvie cop is shot by Connor with his own gun so that he can get away. When Lev finds himself with dirty and wild unwinds, he feels terrible, but he promises to behave like them and get even later. When the teens get to a town, they have to take a school bus to blend in. But before they get on, Connor saves a baby who is being carried on a porch nearby. They hide out in a bathroom at school and Connor tells them why he took the baby. His family had a baby when he was little, but they didn't want any more, so they left the baby on a neighbor's porch. 2 weeks later, the baby showed up again after being passed around the neighborhood in secret. It was so sick and ignored that it died. Lev sneaks out of the bathroom to tell an adult about it. They call the cops, and Lev makes a call to Pastor Dan. Lev is shocked when Pastor Dan tells him that no one will be curious about his absence and tells him to start over. Lev sets off the fire alarm, even though he doesn't know why he did what he did to Connor and Risa. Hannah, a kind teacher, helps Connor and Risa sneak outside, where they pretend to be clappers to make a scene and get away, but Lev's yelling for them almost stops their plans. Hannah tells Sonia to take care of Connor, Risa, and child Didi. Sonia has a safe place in her basement, and Roland, Hayden, and Mai are already staying there. Connor is scared of Roland because he is mean, but Hayden is smart and nice. As Hayden tells Mai the story of Humphrey Dunphy, a boy who was unwound but whose parents killed everyone who got one of his parts, Humphrey's story comes to life. She asks the teens to write letters the day before they leave. You can bet that she will mail the teens letters if they don't come back for them. She tells Connor that she's not perfect but wants to be. Didi is taken by Hannah before the kids leave Sonia. After that, Connor and Risa go from safe house to safe house until they end up in a building run by adults they call the Fatigues. She learns that Roland is dangerous because he tricks people, is said to have a gun, and will definitely kill Connor as soon as he gets the chance. In no way should Connor fall for Roland's trick, she tells him. Connor does what Risa tells him to do, and when Roland threatens to rape Risa, Connor acts like he doesn't care. Roland doesn't bother Risa, but the situation scares her. They tell the teens to get into shipping containers one morning. He almost ends up in a box with Roland, but instead he is put in a crate with Hayden, Diego, and Emby, who has asthma. They talk about how moral unwinding is, and Emby says it's not completely bad because an unwind's lung helped him stay alive as a child with pulmonary fibrosis. The teens land in the Arizona desert at the graveyard, an airstrip for old planes that is no longer in use. They find out that 5 boys in a crate died while being shipped. The newbies are helped to get settled by a group of 5 teens called the Goldens. The admiral, who runs the place, sets the rules. Connor doesn't like the admiral because he has a very bright smile and a very sharp gaze. But Connor quickly finds his place as a worker, and Risa does the same as a nurse. Roland is able to get Cleaver, the helicopter pilot, to teach him how to fly. Connor complains every time they have a work call, where kids offer to do jobs in exchange for safety. To Connor's surprise, Roland agrees with him that the Admiral is running a slave business and suggests that the Admiral tortures kids and takes their body parts. Lev meets an unknown boy named Sci-Fi after being split from Connor and Risa. Sci-Fi likes to talk, and Lev needs to hear something other than the crazy things going through his mind, so he agrees to go to Joplin, Missouri with Sci-Fi. Lev doesn't know where they're going until they get to an Illinois town. Sci-Fi steals a Christmas ornament there, and Lev thinks he is having a seizure. Sci-Fi says that he was in an accident as a child and got the whole temporal lobe of an unwind. Now, Sci-Fi has the unwind's thoughts, feelings, and urges, and the unwind was a serial thief. It was from Joplin, and Sci-Fi thinks that things will get better for him if he takes it there. While they are in Joplin, Sci-Fi and Lev find her dad's at the unwind's parents' house. Sci-Fi learns that the unwind's name is Tyler. Sci-Fi lets Tyler take over, finds a bag full of stolen gold, and begs Tyler's parents not to let him loose. Tyler doesn't seem to know that he was freed, which makes Lev very angry. When things are over, Lev runs away, forever changed by what he saw. Soon after, Lev shows up in the graveyard. The Admiral calls Connor one day to fix his coffee maker. But the coffee maker isn't broken, and Connor says the Admiral is taking advantage of kids to make money and stealing their teeth. Admiral is shocked and rips out his teeth, which are actually false ones. Then he takes Connor to see something very scary. The Goldens were killed by putting them in the same box where the 5 boys had died earlier. Connor is asked by the Admiral to help him figure out who did it. Connor thinks Roland is up to no good, so he plans projects that let him listen in on talks. Though it's hard for him not to give himself away, he still stops Roland from using Roland's suggestion that the Admiral wants MB's scalp to make people afraid and suspicious of the Admiral. In the end, Connor tells the Admiral that he thinks Roland killed the Goldens. While this was going on, the Admiral told Connor what really happened in the Heartland War. He was on the third side and his job was to help the pro-life and pro-choice forces make peace with each other. Unwinding was made legal by the Bill of Life. It was meant to shock the parties into realizing they were being silly, but they signed it into law instead. When the Admiral's son Harlan started acting out a few years later, the Admiral felt like he had to deal with Harlan. He is now running the graveyard to make up for what he did. At the same time, Lev gets into a jet as told by a girl he met in a safe house. He finds Cleaver inside with 2 kids, Mai and Blaine. When Lev finds out that Roland isn't in the group, he is shocked because he really does want to join and says he hates everyone who supports unwinding and wants to make them suffer. The next day, Lev, Mai, and Blaine leave for a work call. Soon after, the Admiral calls MB and sends him off with 2 men. It takes the kids at the graveyard 2 days to figure out that MB is missing. They think the Admiral killed him. They start to fight when they find out that Connor and Roland are also gone. They are wrong, though. Connor has Roland locked up in a shipping container far from the main camp and is trying to get him to admit that he killed the Goldens. Risa keeps the teens who are fighting inside the plane to protect the Admiral, but Cleaver doesn't get as lucky. He wants to be a part of the chaos, but the kids beat him up. When Hayden finally finds Connor, Connor stops the fight and tries to keep Cleaver safe. Connor is shocked when Cleaver says that this way of dying is better than suffocation. He thinks that Cleaver is admitting that he killed the Goldens. Risa tells them they need to take the Admiral to the hospital right away because he's having a heart attack as he gets on the plane. Roland agrees to fly them, but at the hospital, Roland tells on them. They are all taken to Happy Jack Harvest Camp. The kids at the Harvest Camp are very excited to meet Connor because he has a great reputation. Risa's job is to play with the band, which plays on top of the chop shop, which is where people relax. Some people think it's wrong to watch kids die, but Dalton, the bass player, says it's the only way to stay living. Lev is also at the Harvest Camp, but he is there for a very different reason. When Lev left the graveyard for a work call, he was praised, and his blood was changed with exploding liquid. His name is now Blaine, Mai, and he plans to blow up the camp. Over the course of one evening, Roland tries to choke Connor but fails. People who work with him take him to be relaxed the next afternoon. He is awake and scared the whole time, and the experience is horrible. People find out that Connor is next in line to go. Lev tells Blaine and Mai that they need to act quickly to save Connor. In spite of this, Lev is late, and the chop shop blows up right after Connor walks in. When the roof falls, Risa and the band fall. Lev is in unbearable mental pain, but he can't bring himself to clap. Instead, he stops Connor from bleeding and leads the rescue attempt. When Connor wakes up in the hospital, he finds that nurses have given him a new name as a member of a wealthy local family. This keeps him from losing his cool and makes him suitable for emergency organ and eye transplants. Connor is horrified to find out that he got Roland's arm. He finds Risa and learns that she turned down the graft surgery that would have fixed the damage she did when she fell. She can't be untied now that she is crippled. Pastor Dan goes to see Lev in federal jail at the same time. He says Lev is different because clappers never back out. Because of what he did, people like sci-fi are starting to talk about how terrible it is to relax. Connor and Risa go back to the graveyard to run the operation and save Unwinds. Meanwhile, the Admiral throws Harlan a birthday party on his ranch of land. Emby, who has Harlan's left lung, is one of the hundreds of people who got body parts from him.
About the author. Shusterman was born in Brooklyn, New York, and read a lot as a child. When he was 16, his parents moved the family to Mexico City. He still believes that this gave him a new outlook on life and confidence that he couldn't have found anywhere else. After high school, he went to the American School Foundation in Mexico City and got bachelor's degrees in both psychology and theater. After college, Shusterman worked for a short time at a talent agency in Los Angeles. Within a year of starting work there, he got his first book deal and started writing for movies. Many of his books, including the novel Challenger Deep, which came out in 2015, have won awards and prizes, and several are being turned into movies. He lives in Southern California.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.